Thank you for tuning in to Pagan World TV. Welcome to the Gayle Tracey Mull Show with Gayle Tracey Mull. Gayle is a catalyst for change. She can help you create the life that you dream of living. Gayle walks the path of the wounded healer. She is a psychic reader and life coach, as well as a Reiki master in 2 traditions. She has a long and varied background in the mystical, the magical, and the metaphysical. Please welcome your host, Gayle Tracey Mull.
Hello, this is the Gayle Tracey Mull Show, and I'm Gayle Tracey Mull, and I am your coach and guide to finding an eclectic path that is just exactly right for you. We look at the mystical, the magical, the metaphysical here, and try and mix it all together and educate people a little bit. And today I am very excited. We got a little bit of a late start, a little bit of technical difficulties because I'm still learning. But we have Mr. Berk Harbin on today. Berk is the chief of Woden's folk, which has been in Texas since 1999. It is a kindred of Norse Pagans. Yes, we do have them in Texas. And I'm really excited to talk with him today, and for all of you to find out a little bit more about this particular path. I'm very interested in it because some of my children follow this path, and I borrow a lot of things from it, but I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot today, and you do too. And here's Berk.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Good. I am so happy for you to be here tonight. You know, that's a long time to do something. 1999?
Yeah. That's what happens when you just do it day by day and year by year and keep on, going and heading to it.
Yeah. How did you actually come to start your own kindred? And maybe people out there want to know what a kindred is.
Okay, well, to go back, we are Woden's Folk Kindred in Texas, and so I know you said Woden's Folk in the intro, and that can be a little bit confusing because there's a group called Woden's Folk. I don't think they're Woden's Folk Kindred, and they're in England, and they're different than us. They're kind of out on a different whole other wavelength than we are. But we're based here in Texas. I grew up, of course, in a Bible Belt, and like probably everybody who's watching this channel, that stuff never really made much sense. And so in reading, when I was in, going to college, reading a lot of things, it came to me that, hey, there's this other way of looking at things that people used to have. And I wanted to know more about that. And I read as much as I could. And then I, became friends with some other guys who I was going to college with. And they had the same views, and then somebody had something, I guess it was written by the Asatru Alliance. It was something on the 9 Noble Virtues in Asatru. And it's like, hey, what is this? And so we started reading about it. I was like, hey, man, that's pretty cool. People actually do this. Started reading some books on the runes by Edward Thorson, whose real name is Dr. Stephen Flowers. And these things were this fascinating to me. So the more I read, the more I wanted to read, the more I wanted to know. Became better friends with these guys that I was going to college with, and we started a kindred.
That is amazing. I noticed that you have Stephen Flowers on a lot of your stuff. So is he part of your kindred?
He's not a part of our kindred, but he comes and speaks and does seminars at the event that we hold annually down in Bastrop, Texas. And, we look up to him as someone who wrote a lot of things. Of course, he's very controversial because he writes a lot of things besides things. Many of the things that he originally wrote were written back in the 70s, and he was a pioneer of things. He's been involved with more esoteric things, magical stuff, and so there's a bit of a controversy surrounding him. But man, he's a great guy. When you get to meet him, he's a really extremely intelligent and knowledgeable, and very just really nice. He and his wife are on an animal rescue. They're down where they stay, where they live. They have a bit of land, and so they're really cool people. It's been an honor to get to know him. Here in the past 5 or 6 years, after having spent a couple of decades reading his books and saying, man, this is kind of cool. And of course, there's some things you read in his books, and it's like, I don't know about this right here. And then you can look and see where that's at. Some of the books are not really focused on heathenry or historical. Some are more occult or popular books. And I think that there's a little bit of a divergence between what he writes as Edward Thorson, his pen name, and what he writes as Dr. Stephen Flowers. But
Okay. There's a lot of information in that you just said right there, because, I understand to a certain extent the difference between paganism, the occult, the craft, and then there is heathenism and asatru. But, a lot of the people that are out there and listening, you just bent their brains with all of that.
and there was no intent with that. It's just
we know, and me and you talk, but we got to remember that there's people out there that they're trying to understand. So whenever you were studying this in college and you looked at the Asatru Alliance, and I noticed now you identify more as heathen, is there a little bit of a difference between those two things? What?
In a technical sense, there is. I guess the easiest way I explain to people is there's soccer leagues, and there's American football leagues and baseball leagues, and there's a lot of different. They're all professional athletes, hockey players, and so you might say that the hockey player the hockey players are like the pagans, and the basketball players are like the Wiccans, and the heathens are like the baseball players or whatever. They're all professional athletes. They all do a certain thing, and they're all in the same genre. Like if you say sporting events, they all belong to a sporting events, and that would be like saying we're all pagans. Because people ask me, well, what are you? Are you a pagan? It depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to somebody who is a pagan, who I know follows that sort of a path, then I don't tell them I'm a pagan, because they understand the difference, that there are fine things. Whereas if I'm talking to somebody who's your run-of-the-mill Christian, and it's a short interaction, maybe at a restaurant or at a job, yeah, man, I'm a pagan, and we drive
just
home.
leave it at that. When
Right.
people who are starting to learn, pagan is a reference in our modern society to anybody who follows an earth-based path or religion that is not it's not the standard religions of the it's an earth-based kind of spirituality. It's definitely more connected to nature, looking at perhaps gods and goddesses, but looking at them as a personification of nature. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, to a very large degree, it is a natural thing. And that's why, like with my faith, I run into people down here that there's a big conflict between Christians and atheists and science. And, to me, there's nothing in my faith that's at odds with science. There are things that we don't understand how they function, but I can look at the creation story of that they say creation story. I prefer to call it a discovery story of the Germanic peoples, and then look at standard science that you're going to go and find in college, like anthropology, archaeology, even physics, and say there's nothing here that's at odds. That when Odin, Vili, and Ve found Embla on the beach that they were unfated, that doesn't mean they created them out of sticks. To me, that's okay. That is a metaphor for how this population group developed in this location, and as they developed, they formed a relationship with this set of gods and goddesses. That's not at odds with anthropological theory. When you look at, say, Gununga Gap and Muspelheim and Niflheim, and how these forces, these sparks and this ice, you can look at that as polarity in the Big Bang, these things being generated from nothingness to energy to matter. And so you can go on with that.
And so I agree with you. I think that people who follow these alternative faiths, we view the world in a little bit different way. And it's like you started out in college. It made more sense to you whenever you got to looking at it. And people who think that it's easy to go the alternative route, again, this is something that it's about, you have to think about it. It's not preset out for you. You're figuring out your own path, your own spirituality. Yes, and we are going to talk about some of the wonderful publications that we folk have put out. So I want you to stay tuned for that. And we are having some discussions about just Norse paganism and what it's like to be a Texan, because I'm born and raised in Texas too. I was born and raised in the Bible Belt. I know how you feel, Berk.
Yes, ma'am.
I really do.
Yes, ma'am.
We were supposed to be joined by Dawn Thomas, but she was a little bit under the weather tonight. So hopefully we'll have her come back and do a show all of her own on another day.
Yeah, that'll be a good thing for your viewers.
Yes, absolutely. She actually has a degree in Celtic Studies, or a certificate, and she is wonderful. She has her own YouTube station. So I'm sorry I missed her, but shout out to her. Hope she gets to feeling better. And we were going to talk about some of the wonderful books that Woden's Folk Kindred has put out. You can actually purchase on Amazon. And I have talked to people that they are just so incredibly impressed with the quality of books that you guys have put out.
Well, thank you. It never ceases to amaze me all the positive feedback that we get with that. It's very encouraging, and we're happy to be able to provide that to people. We put a lot of effort into those things, a lot of research, and I have to give a shout out here to Karen M.P. Carlson, our editor, because those books would not be nearly as well-rounded and polished as they are without Karen's work.
So what all books have you guys got published? What all is out there right now?
Okay, so we have probably the first book that we published was the Heathen Handbook, and it's a general overview of the heathen religion, what you're referring to as Norse paganism. As you touched upon, there's a lot of different names. People will say Norse paganism, heathen, heathenry, heathenism, Asatru, Odinism, Fornset, and there's probably 3 or 4. I might have hurt somebody's feelings by not mentioning, their particular branch. That's not on purpose. It's just there are so many things that the indigenous faith of Northern Europe was called.
Correct. And one of the things that I want to make really plain to people, part of the reason that I really like Berk and Berk's group is I've had other people that have researched this, and they go by different names, Asatru and this and that and all of the different things, and some are not nearly as inclusive. Like you said, there's that one group that has a similar name to yours, but they're a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, they believe that, I guess, Hitler's still alive in Antarctica under the ice with flying saucers and stuff, and it's like nobody, not for
Yeah,
us.
that's one of the things that I want to make a point. A lot of groups, they are sort of associated with that little bit of neo-Nazi white supremacist thing. And I want people to know out here that Berk or I, neither one, I'm sure that you will agree, are about any of that.
Right, definitely. I mean, you've been to events with us, so you've seen the people that are there.
There's a large variety, okay? I actually, whenever I attended the event where I met Berk, I went with my daughter partner, Mariah Hill, that's going to be on next week with me. And she is so thoroughly impressed with you. She is such a researcher. And
it's so weird because the week before y'all came to that event, I was in her town in New Mexico. We stopped off there we were coming back from a business. You were taking a delivery out to California, and we stopped there. And one of the guys that she was talking about getting a kinder together with is actually the night clerk that checked us in at the hotel.
Oh, that is so funny.
It
cool. Is a very small world.
It is.
But, that is to gay women. And Mariah has a Hispanic last name. And I am not necessarily follow a heathen tradition, although I'm very interested in it and I do know quite a bit about it. And we were perfectly happy at Berk's event. So I want you guys to understand that if you're wanting to learn and experience something and you go out and you check out Woden's Folk Kindred, as long as you treat them with respect, they're going to respect you.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to respect you even if you don't respect us. We're just going to ask you to leave respectfully.
That's it. That's it. I mean, if you come to have fun and learn. And I think that's for all of us. But I did think it was sort of important because I do think that there is a misunderstanding with some people out there that they would think that this is sort of, but some people can get the wrong impression. I'll put it that way.
And a lot of that is because there is some of that out there. We know this, but a lot of it is that it's a Northern European religion. So the preponderance of people who practice it are going to be people of Northern European descent. So when you're looking at these groups, if you look at, pictures, most of the people are going to be of Northern European descent. But it's, we believe that we have a biological relationship with our gods. If you read the lore, they talk about Heimdall coming and staying and having children with various women here on Earth, if you will. And so there's, that connection. But we believe, like I said, in science and basic math. And so if, you feel like you have a biological DNA connection with the gods, and then you have a biological child with somebody else, well, guess what? That child has a biological relationship with the gods too. I mean, it's just basic math.
Actually, whenever Mariah looks at her ancestry thing, because we get all of these ancestry DNA things, she actually has a lot of Northern European. So go figure. The name is just different. I think that that's sort of the thing. We're all a melting pot now, and you really need to find what speaks to you and speaks to your heart.
And a lot of it is who you are as a person, because they're just like in work, or I guess for the majority of people, you're going to have people that you get along with better than you do other people. There's people here in the state that are heathen that have come and participated with us that just for one reason or another, we don't really fit into this mold or they don't fit into that mold. And there's no animosity there, no problems. It's just, hey, I get along with this group over here. And so over there with this group over here.
Yeah, it's just, it's like you go and experience a couple of different churches until you find the right one.
Right. And that's what.
Got to find the one you fit.
That's what I really like about the Yule that we have down at Bastrop is a lot of these different kindreds and tribes. Everybody shows up and it's, hey, we're just having fun. We have this nice big feast. We have some good speakers like Dr. Flowers. Tucker, various people that have come and given lectures, talks at the event. But the Freeth, the coming together to, we usually do a bloat to Frigga, the All Mother down there. So it's a really good thing. And, that's, they inspire us to do a lot more, to put things in, like the work you talked about going to the publications, the book. We do that for, for people to enjoy. I mean, we've already done the research. We wouldn't know the things to write the books, not having done the research. And, going back to the Heathen Handbook, that was the impetus for the Heathen Handbook. It has over 100 sources, because when we were all in college and looking for this stuff, it's like, well, you have to go to this book over here and that book over there. All these different books to get this one little piece of knowledge here that interacts with this, that interacts with this. Like it says in the Hobmull, one word builds onto another word, one poem builds onto another poem, and then you have that book. And so we were trying to find out that comprehensive, I guess, worldview, that religious feeling and practice that our ancestors. And so we wanted to write that book so that the people who came after us could say, hey, I can just pick up this one book and I can read this book and I can glean all this information from these various sources. And that's why we also have the bibliography in there, so that, if you want to go and read what that source actually says, you flip right back here and say, okay, well, this is from Tacitus or from Saxo Grammaticus or wherever it came from.
I was really impressed whenever I looked at your books that they're compilation books and there's not an author, because it's a contribution by all of you. And if I understood you right, actually the proceeds from that publication or your publications go into your group fund to do events and promote and help with the different things.
Right. And that's why, unlike some groups out there that you see, national groups that are charging people to go to their bloats, that are charging people to go to their events, we don't charge anybody ever to go to any bloat, to any, because, those people, I personally feel, who you are. If you were charging people to go and honor the gods, then you're wrong. Now, that being said,
somebody to enter church.
Yeah, you don't see that. Now, when they have these things where they rent a venue where people are staying, there's lodging. Yeah, I mean, that's fair that you're paying for the lodge. Or if they have a big catered meal and you're paying for the meal, that's fine. But I've seen groups that, want them $70 to attend the bloat if you're just attending the bloat that day. And I'm like, how do you look at yourself after you charge somebody $70 to go honor the gods? That's, to me, that's ridiculous. And hospitality is supposed to be a virtue. And yet, if you go to any one of these churches in the Bible Belt, somebody's going to come up to you and be like, hey, how you doing? My name's Jimbo. Come on in. There's a seat over here for you. You can park your car over there. And after church, you come on down to KFC with us and get some chicken. And
it's the same, that thing of hospitality, and that actually goes back to the Celtic tradition. Hospitality was one of the things that was honored above all others. How you treated other people and how you honored them.
And that's why we try to
how you were measured.
Yeah, and that's why we try to operate the way, like you said, and the proceeds from those books, we use those for things like when y'all came out to the midsummer, that was all free. The venue was paid for by the proceeds of that, the food, the catering and all that. And so that's what we try to do with that, because, it's, I understand a lot of people have approached me with different kindreds that they're scared as far as, being public and being seen because of the backlash by the Christian community down here. I understand if, you have some kind of a reticence about your hospitality, inviting people in because of that. But there's just too many people in our community that are, they're closed-minded, like, who are you and what are you doing? Or, no, man, reach out because that's a sign of strength,
Yes,
you know?
and I think people are so thirsty for knowledge. Even if they don't want to follow this path, they may have a family member that does. And
Uh,
they need to be able to feel like they can go and be accepted and not to feel so strange about things. But we're going to run out of time, and I know
okay.
that one of the books that you just put out, Heilweger, I am really excited about this book, people, because it's sort of like a pagan Norse version of AA, if I understand it correctly.
Yes, ma'am. So with the Halvager, I had a friend of mine who came to me. His name's Logan Chadwick. He's a great guy. And he had gotten involved, he'd gotten himself addicted to meth. And he was really messed up. And he came to me, he was heathen. And I mean, it's hard to, hard to express how much it hurt me that this guy, he was a really strong, physically active, just a rope, just like a very much a man's man, like your nephew Brad. Imagine Brad being strung out on dope and skinny and
Hmm.
messed up and asking for help. And I couldn't do anything for him, you know? And he said the only thing I think was I could go to this Christian program and it's a Christian halfway house and they do this stuff. And I told him like, man, bro, go do that. Because if the gods can't give you that, then you need that. You go to
Hmm.
Jesus and get that. You need to get that. But it hurt my heart. And so I was talking with Thorstein Mayfield about this. And so we said, we need to come up with a program for heathens. And that's why it's also specifically in that book that it's inclusive for Wiccans, pagans, whoever you are. If you need that help, it's for you. Yeah, it's a heathen program, but it's for everybody who needs that help. And so, we went and researched this stuff and came up with this, the book, the 9-step program that parallels the 9 noble virtues because they exist. I mean, some
Hmm.
people have controversy about them because modern invention. Okay, so is a cell phone. You use it every day. Get over it.
The people that say, oh, we want to do the old way, well, you know, do we truly know what the old way was? And we live in a modern world.
Right.
So the old way has to be made new again.
Yes.
It has to be reinvented. We have to bring it into our present and modern time. But I am so excited about Heilweger because I have been in the position before where I wasn't an addict, but I had somebody in my life who was. And I was already well down an alternative path. And, then they tell you you've got to go to Al Anon and you've got to do these things. And I'll be honest with you, I was not going to turn my back on my path. But it would have
Right.
been very nice if I could have had a different way to look at this that was more in tune with my own belief system.
And one of the biggest things with the Halvager is the fundamental difference of with AA, you have to say, I'm powerless against my addiction and I turn myself over to the higher power, which we all raise as Jesus. And as heathens, as pagans, it sticks in our craw. It's like, no, I did this. I messed this up. I need to fix this. And so it's like, it's a different thing that I am responsible for
Hmm.
my addiction. I'm responsible for my choices, but I'm asking for help from my community and from my gods so that I can fix this.
Yes. And to be led and to be shown the path forward to living a more clean and sober life.
Right. And so the name Heilweger is a juxtaposition of the term Hellweger, which means the hell road. Our ancestors believed that when you died, you went on this hell road for 9 days and 9 nights, and you walked down it and did all these. And so Heilweger means the word Heil in Old Norse means healthy, but it also means holy. And so it means the healthy and the holy path or the healthy road. And so it's the juxtaposition of those two roads. Like you're at the crossroad, and you can go down the Hellweger or you can go down the Heilweger. And so, you make that conscious choice to go down the of health and holiness.
I I think that is totally amazing, and I applaud you for doing that because, all too often we want to turn our backs on people who are addicted or that they have problems. And our society has done that for way too long, and there's way too many people out there. And we've got to realize that there's not just one road to getting better. You have to, it's just like your religion and your spirituality. You have to be able to find a path that works for you.
Right.
Yeah. And you have actually given that to people with the Heilweger. Um, I know that you did some other books too. Didn't you redo that?
So Thorstein Mayfield, a member of our kindred, he has translated the Poetic Edda. So we have, and initially, while he was translating it, when he had his translation of the Havamal, I did a book with him. It's it's an interpretation of the Havamal for, and it has a line by line translation of what it means, and then he eventually completed his translation of the Poetic Edda, and we have that out there too.
My girls said that was the most wonderful book. They were so impressed with it. Just sort of the mentality of trying to grow up in Texas and follow a different path.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, people. Not if you grew up this way. And one of the things that Kit said several times, and we got to remember people don't know the words, is talking about the bloats. So a bloat is a gathering to celebrate a holiday. Am I correct? Or is it just any gathering?
I guess people who would be, I guess the historical purists would say that blood, the word blood, it's a celebration where an animal is sacrificed. They would perform a ritual. The animal would be cooked. There would be a feast, and there would be ritual drinking afterwards. Generally speaking, nowadays you don't see that a lot as far as the animal sacrifice for various reasons. So it's generally just a feast with a religious ritual and then some ritual drinking afterwards.
Yeah.
Kind of like we call a little shindig or throwdown down here in the South.
A barbecue. Yeah.
Right. We just pray to Thor or Woden instead of Jesus, and it's little.
But it's the same thing. And since we were talking about Heilweger and you mentioned that you drink afterwards, people who don't want to drink, like whenever the cup is going around and you're toasting other, they can kiss the cup, or there is non-alcoholic.
Yes.
Beverages available.
That's correct.
So I don't want you to think that we're talking about one thing but doing another out there.
Right. And it's, hey, mixing some Sprite and fruit juice, it's a good substitute for mead.
And I personally, the mead, oh my God, their mead was so fabulous. If you've never had mead, you need, but homemade mead is the best. It's the
I'm pretty proud of mead. It's definitely a favorite. So.
Yeah, it really is. I like honey mead. But so whenever we're talking about that and we're talking about the bloats, and there's different groups like we've expressed under that pagan umbrella. And one of the things very hard in Texas is to find a place to hold your event. Because there's always somebody on the board or somebody that has the keys, and they're like, oh, you're going to do what? No, you can't do that here.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a problem, is it not, Berk?
It is a problem. It's a big issue, especially down here. I imagine there's some parts of the country where they don't really care. But down here in the Bible Belt, it's a big issue. And that's another thing that I get, people commenting on that, with our kindred, Woden's folk kindred, we have a larger group of people and we have a lot of guys that are, and girls too, with law enforcement, military backgrounds.
There's a
Uh,
lot of nurses, medical people. I mean,
yes,
there's a lot of entrepreneurs actually in your group.
right. And so
Their
when
own
you
business.
have this, this core group of people, it becomes a little bit easier. We know we have a. I mean, yeah, we have a security plan if something ever happened, but we know how to deal with people, and we're confident in that and have dealt with it. But still, even with that, it's just it kind of puts the mood down a little bit when you have somebody kind of looking down your nose because they have, oh, they're the devil worshippers, or they're those
Hmm.
Satanists, they don't believe in God, and all this kind of business that you encounter down here. It does
Hmm.
put it down, and so a lot of groups, especially like the pagan, Wiccan groups, I've heard people talk about that's a big problem for them, not having a place to go. I hate to say a safe space, so a secure venue. It's a very a very real issue for people of our faith and similar faiths.
It really is, and I do think that it's different in different parts of the country. I think that maybe it's a little bit more accepted. But, Texas is a big place. It covers like a 5 state area for any place else. And this is an issue. And one of the things that Bert, can't say your name now, Burke and I have talked about is a Hoth, or that is your name for it. I might call it a retreat center.
A hof, a temple, a retreat.
Mm.
The government would call it a church.
Right.
Technically, it's a church.
Yeah. But it is actually, we've talked about a piece of land that different groups could perhaps contribute or rent above, or we would have to figure out how to do that. And they would have to be a stable group. They would have to be somebody that brought something to the table, so to speak. But where different people could come and they could participate with the different people, and that people could come together and mingle, but then they can actually go back and celebrate with their own group.
Well,
And
and
that
that's
would
one of
be
the
a hall.
things that we have in line. Next we've gone through all these hoops and lining these things up, and of course you have to line up the financing with the bank and do these different things that we've been working on. And we're right there. But when we do, make close on that piece of land and get something built, it's our intent that we want to reach out to other, I guess, the greater pagan community and say, hey, look, check it out. We have a venue. If you're interested in this venue, holler at us, because it's a safe, a secure environment for you to have your things. Maybe
Mhm.
druids or Wiccans or you know
And
other.
which is, and now I don't know how you feel about this, but there do talk about the fact that there are Satanists, and we get branded with that Satanist thing a lot. I know, you know, and there are Satanists out there, but they're really actually pretty few and far between. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and I don't like to be the one to disparage anybody's faith, but I've always looked at that like, and that comes from the Bible. And if you read this book, the Bible, then that's the losing team. I kind of want to be on the winning team.
Yeah. Well,
You
that,
know,
and to be honest with you, most pagans will tell you that Satan is a creation of the Christian church, that it really doesn't have anything to do with them, that
right?
that's
And again,
more of a
that's
Christian
it's.
concept than it
I,
is.
I don't want to pick an argument with any of those guys, but it's
Mhm.
just not my thing.
Right. Something moved just then. Okay. But I wanted to bring that up, and I think that Burke and I both have been sending energy a long time to this concept of having a place where people could come and do events, they could have fairs, they could have classes, um, and they're a greater board of people that are inclusive rather than exclusive.
Right. Right. And that's what, that's what we want to do. We want to build our thing in our space. But once we have that, we want to reach out a hand and invite people. Hey, look, would you like to, come and participate? You can do your thing here. We want to host that because we feel that, when you read the sagas, an attitude like that's a position of strength. And so we're trying to build ourselves up and strengthen ourselves so we can help other people. And before I go, I just want to point out the first one of Odin's spells is help.
Wow. I think that me and you both want a place for people that are seeking. We don't necessarily want to draw people in. We want people to come and seek us out and find us. And unfortunately, we are going to have to sign off. We're at the end of our time. Next week, I'm going to have Miss Mariah Trujillo, who is one of my real helpers, and we are going to talk about shadow work and ancestry work. Okay, next week. I'm Gayle Tracey Mull, and this is the Gayle Mull Show. And please tune in next week because you just never know what you're going to hear here.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for watching the Gayle Tracey Mull Show with Gayle Tracey Mull. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a like and comment and subscribe. Tune in next time on Pagan World TV.
Aromagees Botanica, a metaphysical store for mind, body, and spirit. Oils, herbs, candles, crystals, teas, handmade soaps, tarot cards, everything you need on your magical journey. Daily psychic and tarot readings, classes, witchcraft, pagan, and hoodoo supplies, most of it made in-house. Try our free Dress Your Own candle station. From spiritual gifts to ritual supplies to religious books, we have the widest selection of metaphysical products in all of Tennessee since 1999. It is our goal to inspire everyone to explore their spirituality in their own way by offering information and products in a nurturing multicultural environment. Open 7 days a week. 223 Donaldson Pike, Nashville, Tennessee, or visit us online at aromagees.com.
Hi, Jason Hoddle here. My craft name is Fluffy. I'm a tarot reader, and I'm excited to work with you through tarot to help you discover the best possible version of yourself. Together, we can help you tell your story, and we could also project the story you desire into your future. I am a three-legged wolf. I lost my lower leg last year through an accident, but through that accident I found my humor. And through humor I found my magic. And through humor I found love. Through humor I've discovered all things are possible. So give me a call, text me. I'm all over Facebook. Use the hashtag with the fluff through social media to track me down. Love ya. Bye.